Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 838, Mahomes, Rivers, and the Heisman. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. Recording a day later than we had planned because I managed to lock myself out of my apartment yesterday, which was a little bit of a downer. But other than that, the week's been pretty good.
Does this make you think about like potentially doing like the hiding of a secondary key, or because like in our old house we put a little lockbox with a key in it and just put that in our mailbox, but you kind of can't do that because your mailbox is probably locked as well.
Yes, but in fairness, that still wouldn't be the stupidest thing because I could break into my mailbox a lot more easily than I could break into through my door, and replacing my mailbox would be cheaper than getting a locksmith to come out and go through the door. And so the downside is like my front door, when you close it, it's shut, which is nice in the sense that you don't have to worry about, oh, did I remember to
automatically locks, you mean?
It doesn't lock, but you can't open it without the key. So once it's shut, which the nice thing means is you don't have to think, did I forget to lock the front door? That's never a consideration. But in this instance, as soon as I stepped outside with the dog and I closed the door and I was like checking my pockets for if I had things for the dog. And then as soon as the door closed, I was like, oh my God, I don't have my keys. And that was just
rough.
And then what made it worse is you're then sort of slightly in a haze. I texted you because this was sort of 30 minutes before we were supposed to record. So I knew that I probably wasn't going to make that. But then also, I then walked out. I was like, oh, I'm going to take the dog for a walk anyway. And then took the dog for a walk and then realized I couldn't even get back into my building. I hadn't thought about the fact that now I was stuck. I was fully stuck outside. So it made my situation even worse. And fortunately, the weather wasn't too bad and it wasn't too cold. I was also only wearing, because I was expecting it to be a relatively brief walk, I was in a sweatshirt and a pair of shorts, which in, mid-December was optimistic to say the least. So when I was then sat outside for a while, it took a solid 20 minutes before someone else in the building happened to leave. So
hey, do you have a key to my house, my apartment by any chance?
And that's what I should really do, is give a key to someone else in the building. The thing is, I don't really interact with my neighbors at all. So picking which one I would choose, but that's really, and I have friends who live not too far away from here, and I could give them a spare key and have that just be a backup.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we did that as well. We had multiple keys around Tucson. I don't know what we were thinking was going to happen, but so we had a friend had a key, we had a hidden key.
But yeah,
we don't have that at all. We have the pin pad though, which is nice.
Yes. No, that would be cool. Or one of the fingerprint sensors, one of those, if you really got advanced, where that opens your door. The downside to that is if the technology breaks, then you're fucked. So
when the batteries go down, it kind of sucks.
Yeah. So you are a little beholden then to technology working. But
let me ask you this. How did you at any time contemplate, can I get up to my balcony?
So yes, but only for one reason, which is there were guys cutting the trees around here. And so I thought they were there and they had their ladders. And I thought to myself, if unfortunately all of the windows there were closed, had any of those windows been open, I would have legitimately gone to one of them and said, do you think you can just put your ladder up against there and you guys can go up? I'm not going to do it because fair enough but can you just go in and climb through that window? I mean, in an ideal world, if the balcony...
I love they climb through the window and cut themselves, and now you've got a lawsuit on your head and you're still locked out of your apartment.
In an ideal world, if the balcony door had been open, which often it is, even in the winter, because have underfloor heating, and it gets so warm with the underfloor heating that I actually have to open. This is not a great environmental statement, but I have to open a window to offset the heating that's going on. And I can't control the heating because it's building controlled. So I can't reduce it. But there's oftentimes during the day where I'll open the balcony door to get a little fresh air and to reduce the temperature of the apartment. And so had that been the case, I would have legitimately, it crossed my mind, and I would have gone up to them and said, do you think you can put one of those ladders up against my balcony? This is only 2 floors up for listeners. So we're not talking,
I
it's probably 15 meters, something like that. Like, it's not a huge height.
I love this scam potential now. Now you walk the dog around. You find balconies that look like they have an open door, and then someone's cutting the trees, and you're like, "Hey, I just locked myself out of this apartment. Can you just let me up? Just hold my dog real quick."
Yeah, but then I'd also have to know there was no one inside the apartment.
That's the risk you gotta run.
It is true though, the dog does give you like a lot of credibility.
Yeah.
It does reduce people's suspicion of like, well, someone wouldn't rob a house whilst walking a dog. Like that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So it does make people think of you a little bit more kindly.
The real great move is you go to like a shelter and you get a new dog every time. So then you can just leave the dog with the guy cutting the trees. Well, because what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Rob the apartment, come back down, and be like, "Thanks for my dog," and just walk
That's
away?
the real move. That's the sort of suave, cat burglar move in a movie, which would be, yes, I then calmly, that's the sort of catch me if you can move. I then walk back down with the TV under my arm and say, well, I just needed to take this to the repair shop, but thank you so much for helping me. That's you can keep the wallet. That I had to pull that move on the guy so that he feels really confident. But
Yeah. That's funny.
But just in case, obviously it's bad flu season, especially in the UK. It's been hit by the super flu, and just a lot of bugs going around. But fortunately, RFK Jr. is here to give medical advice. Don't know if you saw this, but he's been advocating for raw milk. That's a big belief of his. He's gone one step further. He thinks he now thinks we should be drinking breast milk. Pure, God-given, God-made breast milk is the key to all.
I don't think he said adults should be. I think unclear. The comment was that there should be more stations. I think this is related to the airports, right? There should be more stations in airports for mothers, for lactating mothers. But then he did go on a slight rant about how great breast milk was.
Yes. And this is in light of them putting exercise stations within airports. This is part of making airports great again. And look, last time we discussed the announcements about trying to get people to dress well and be kinder to people in airports. And I was somewhat on board with a lot of those suggestions. I can't think of anything worse now, though, than getting on a plane and the person sitting next to me had been doing box jumps for 25 minutes in the airport, and it's just sweaty getting on. Like, what is the world in which I want to have that be the person sitting next to me on an airplane?
Yeah, it may. I'll tell you what, I don't dislike the idea, because there are times that I've been stuck at an airport for multiple hours where I was like, if you just threw a fat chariot in front of me, I could hop on that thing for an hour, watch a TV show.
That's an elliptical machine for people not familiar with Frank
an elliptical
terminology.
Machine, yeah. Yeah, a Stairmaster would be too much. That's way too much sweating. But like an elliptical, put me on an elliptical, or even like a treadmill with a little incline. Like when you're there and you're just bored, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, well, then what do? I don't have gym clothes, and I don't have a place then to like
shower.
Even if you can't shower, like you don't have stuff that you can't like change into new clothes with like
no, you got to be showering.
You know what I mean? Like
because if you're hopping on a 45-minute flight and you've changed your clothes and you didn't sweat very much, maybe that's okay. But if you're hopping on a transatlantic flight next to me and you haven't showered and you just had a workout, regardless of whether you're a big sweater or how intense that workout is, you're going to smell a little bit at some point over the course of that flight.
Well, chances are I'm not going to be the smelliest one on that flight still.
Okay, well, thank God then. That's do what you want, I guess. Just have at it.
Like in theory, it's like a decent idea, but then when you just like for 10 seconds think of the logistics of what follows, it's out the window. Because like
It's
the other idea I had would be kind of cool, would be like when we all travel together, like and we were just talking about it off podcast, like if there was like a little like mini basketball court and you
Mhm.
could go like shoot hoops or something like that. Like that would kind of be cool, but then just even if it weren't to sweat, then the logistics are like, there's a bunch of fucking kids running around. First thing is like some parents are just letting their 9 children run around. There's one ball, it's popped, like because
Yeah.
you can't bring your own fucking ball to an
People are
airport.
stealing the
That would be
balls.
weird. People are stealing the balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people are sleeping on the court
Well,
because like they
that
have
might be
nowhere to sleep.
okay, that might
No,
be
like you know what I mean?
because
Though
all you
people
need is
sleep
a little bit of
everywhere on airports.
yeah, I know, but sleeping on the basketball court might be a little extreme,
Yeah,
and a little bit of staffing could offset that issue, and I guess stealing the balls too. But you're right. I mean, ultimately, the opportunity here is for specific airports to have a gym inside of them that you have to pay to use, and then in a way, you'd have to require this is a tough thing. You would have to say to someone, "I need to check that you have gym clothes." Like, that you have to change your
yeah.
clothes, and I'm also gonna force you to shower here. Like, these if you're
I don't think you can force someone to shower.
this is these are the terms and conditions of using the airport gym, in
You
which
have to
case they're
pass a smell
acceptable.
test when you leave.
And the basketball court, that's great until, 45 minutes before your big vacation, you rupture your Achilles. And
Yeah.
like, hey, what could go wrong? Let's just get up a few shots quickly before we hop on the flight. I mean, it would be good. Loosen up my legs after I've been sitting, during my layover, after I've just been sitting still for 7 hours. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe, like, you could do more regional stuff, like, maybe Minnesota could have a little skating rink that you can go and put you can rent some skates and skate around, and then, what happens then? Someone steals the skates and puts them on a plane, and then we have an issue. Like,
Yeah.
that's not gonna happen either.
Yeah, I don't think you can allow people to come in with ice skates. I think that might be a little bit too much, but yeah, I'm open to more things being in airports because it's true that, activities would be great. I mean, I once spent an entire night when I was 18, 19 years old and I was flying to Croatia and we the logistics of our planning was so poor that we thought getting to the air, kind of traveling. We took a Eurostar from Paris to London, and then we're going to fly from London to Split because that was on paper, the cheapest way of doing it. And then we ended up having to sort of be overnight in Gatwick, I think it was. There was an arcade that was open,
Lovely.
and just played on the arcade for 6 hours. Probably spent £300 in the arcade. It meant that economically, the decision made absolutely no sense. But you know, something like an arcade, it surprises me that there are
Yeah.
fewer things like that in airports.
Yeah.
Because also you just have what a huge
Germs.
moneymaker.
Just
I
germs,
guess
too many
germs.
germs.
But
That was a
everything's
good one I saw too, where they were like, we wanna make bigger playgrounds for kids. And I saw a comment was like, this is the greatest idea I've heard. Let's get kids from all across the world who are covered in germs to come together into a melting pot on the gym equipment and just spread germs as quickly as you can and then get back on planes and spread it across the world. I thought that was a
that's
pretty
how
good
you
one.
build immunity, Frank. It's all about
Yeah, probably.
exposure. You know?
I mean, but some airports do have that stuff. Like, I mean, we've talked about, we don't ever fly out of Minneapolis together, but they have the golf simulator. Like, you have to pay for it, obviously, but that's kind of a cool thing. Like, if airports had activities like that, even if they weren't free and you could pay for them, but it was a good way to kill 2-3 hours. Like, oh, let's go to like go on a golf simulator for an hour. That's low sweat level. That's good. That's fun.
Golf simulator is fine. I'm not going to
Yeah.
require you to shower after
Mini
being in the
golf,
mini golf would
little
be
mini golf
awesome.
course.
Oh, and you could upcharge me all you want in an airport. I would pay $100 a round for mini golf in the
Just to
airport
lose to me.
if I felt like that could kill an hour, before a flight. And especially then
Yeah.
if you did have the problem there is kids, the mini golf kids or kids already on mini golf, the behavior
But if you
is
make it
not.
expensive enough,
Yeah, that's the thing. And 0 kid prices. You want your kid to be an asshole on the mini golf?
Double.
$150.
double the price. The kid price is double the adult.
Yeah, that's fine. This is supposed to be adults only. So, have at it. But Yeah. Now, I guess before we get on to, more sports news, the Heisman ceremony was this weekend.
Oh, was it? It
Mendo
feels like it was months ago.
yeah, Mendoza won. Two I watched it just because I happened to be up and I was waiting for a different event to start. And so I kind of sat through almost the entire thing, I think. But two big takeaways. One, I think as a finalist, I would find a lot of the process to be very awkward because you are sat there for 45 minutes whilst they kind of run through your CV in front of everyone. And I don't really know what the solution to that is to a certain extent because I get that that's part of the program that they're building, but it is kind of weird to be sat there whilst people are just enthusiastically speaking about you and talking up your candidacy. For the video
Well,
clips,
for
I think
for some of them, they loved it. I'm sure
yeah.
Pavia loves that.
Yeah, and for the video clip section of it and kind of seeing your backstory, I guess that's nice because it gave an opportunity for people's parents to speak or brothers, high school coaches who, I think that's a nice little thing. It's weirder when it's then four former Heisman Trophy winners sitting on stage just briefly saying, well, Frank's a great quarterback. He is a great quarterback. That's all I can say. It's like, because you can also tell very quickly, especially in this instance, everybody knew Mendoza was going to win it, but they had to then speak in a way as if, well, Diego Pavia might win this. It's like we all know Diego Pavia is not winning this.
He
And
didn't.
he didn't. And then subsequently told everyone, all the voters to fuck
Fuck
off,
off.
even the ones
Yeah.
who had voted for him. He
It doesn't.
didn't.
Well, yeah, they didn't petition hard enough for him.
No. Just it's hard to imagine someone. He almost made himself undraftable over the course of an evening that was supposed to recognize how well he had played that season.
Yeah.
And then between the way he spoke about himself in the build up to it and just I'm the greatest college player of all time, zero humility at any point. And then obviously with the issue of telling voters subsequently to fuck off and then also going to a club and he'd paid for like a sign to come out with some champagne that said fuck Indiana. And it was
Yeah.
just him giving a middle finger to sort of cameras. I mean, very well aware of the fact that he was being recorded and that this was going to go out. It's just kind of an insane move.
Well, you know who he talks to regularly, who he regularly gets advice from.
Theo Vaughn?
No, maybe, but worse.
Who's that?
Johnny Manziel.
Oh,
That's like his mentor.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's
I mean, that's insane
evident.
that anyone in his camp would allow that. It's almost as insane as saying he's 6 foot. I'm gonna put it this way: if he's 6 foot, then I'm 6'4". You make fun of me. You make fun of me for what I say I'm 5'11". If he's 6 foot, I am legitimately at least 6'4".
Yeah, it's the 6 foot one. It's tough because he was then standing next to another athlete who claimed to be 6 foot tall, who was
Love.
Yeah,
Jeremiah Love, who is 4 inches taller than him at least.
let's say 2. But 2 inches is big. Like a 2-inch height difference is very noticeable height difference. It's not like
He went up to his chin.
It's not that bad. But yeah, that was a bad look. And yeah, and also what came out, he spent on several occasions over the course of the weekend, he made attempts to get Tate McRae's attention, the pop star, and to get
Yeah.
her to go on a date with him, which was weird. He kind of used this as a platform to reach out to this pop star,
Yeah.
which is slightly bizarre. I guess from a different person and done differently, it could be perceived as maybe slightly charming if you'd done it in the right way. But this also included, he does have this really close relationship with Theo Vaughn, the comedian. Theo Vaughn DM'd her on his behalf because they felt obviously more confident that she would read a DM from Theo Vaughn than from this relatively popular college football player, but DM'd her asking for her to go on a date with Diego Pavia. I can't imagine a scenario in which I could be the person on either side of that equation. Theo Vaughn's 45 years old. Why is he sort of striking up
Swingman,
this.
man. Hey, wingmans have no age, Eddie.
Yeah. Why is he striking up this close friendship with a college football player? That's already slightly bizarre. I judge Theo Vaughn just for that fact. And then to be willing, if to either for him to have said the idea, oh, I could DM her. And for Diego Pavia to go like, yeah, do it. That sounds like a good idea. Or if Diego Pavia said, do you think you've got way more followers than me? Do you think you could DM her? To agree to do it's just an insane move. Absolutely
Well,
insane.
I mean, too bad Tate McRae's Canadian and she doesn't give a shit about the NFL, and what she does care about is hockey. And she's currently dating Jack Hughes, which is a much better pro hockey player than Pavia will ever be pro football player.
Well, maybe Diego Pavia is thinking 3 steps ahead, which is in all likelihood he's going to end up in the CFL. So it makes sense for him to pursue a Canadian pop star.
He can't cross the border. There's a height limit. He doesn't reach it. Trust me, I just barely reached it, and I'm 5'11". He's not reaching it.
But yeah, it just such an unlikable person. I hope he's not drafted. I mean, he probably will be.
He 100% will.
But in the
Manziel was the first pick in the NFL draft, and he was this asshole.
Yeah, he was, but he was way better as a college player. Like
Diego comparables there.
No, I mean, Johnny Manziel was undeniably one of the greatest college quarterbacks of the modern era. Diego Pavia has been a sort of fun story at a couple of underdogs, but I don't think you'd find, other than Diego Pavia and maybe Theo Vaughn, I don't think you'd find anyone who would say, I think Diego Pavia is the best college quarterback this year or last year or during that time period. But
I don't know if you'd find a lot of people, though, that would have said Manziel was the best guy coming out.
Well, in terms of professional prospects, no. But in terms of who was the best college,
in college,
this is the like, it's like the Tim Tebow debate of like, he was undoubtedly the greatest college quarterback in the last 25 years, but very few people believe that could translate. I saw that interview with Cam Newton where he was talking about when he was the understudy to Theo Vaughn.
Theo Vaughn?
Yeah, he's trying to get on the stand-up circuit. But he was the understudy to Tim Tebow at Florida for a year. And he was being asked about that. Talking about humility, rare bit of good look from extremely well handled by Cam Newton, because the interviewer, it was that former ESPN, basically said she hates Urban Meyer because of the fact that he did not start Cam Newton over Tim Tebow, and that she has never forgiven him for that fact, and that everyone knew that Cam Newton was better. And Cam Newton actually handled that really well, which said the less mature version of myself would have agreed with you, but Tim Tebow was probably the greatest college football player of all time. If not, he's in everybody's top 5. So, to get to learn from him and work under him and see the examples that he set was a wonderful experience. And that, of course, he should have been starting.
He's a 2-time national champ, Tim Tebow. So why would you start a quarterback if the one you started won the national championship?
And he was coming back when Cam Newton was there. They were defending national champions in the season in which Cam Newton was at Florida. They'd won the national championship the year before.
Oh, that's the year they lost that, actually, I think.
That season they then lost.
Okay, and then they won the next season.
Yeah.
With Tebow.
But
okay.
But he acknowledged this fact. But I mean, I guess part of where they didn't do a good job of framing it is supposedly within the Florida coaching staff, pretty much everyone acknowledged that Cam Newton was a better quarterback than Tim Tebow was, but that there was absolutely zero chance that Cam Newton was going to start over Tim Tebow. And again, that's a fair, and Cam Newton handled it for a guy who's managed to put his foot in his mouth on a lot of instances when he's been interviewed. He actually handled the question extremely well and came across, again, as somewhat humble, which is an unusual thing for Cam Newton, and at least aware of the fact that Tim Tebow, no one was ever going to drop Tim Tebow to let Cam Newton start.
Now, did you I had pulled up like all the previous Heisman winners, like the last 20 years, to see if you could guess them. But I'm sure you saw most of them there, so it probably wouldn't be funny because there are a few that you're just like, oh yeah, I forgot about that person.
Yeah. No, there's lots of ones, even over the course. There's a lot of guys who won the Heisman who, if you'd asked me 5 days ago, did this person win a Heisman? I would have said no. I'd forgotten that Mark Ingram had won a Heisman trophy.
Yeah.
That's one of those where it's like, oh yeah. That's if put on the spot last week, I would have said probably not. And that's the tough.
And not
That's
only
the
that,
weird.
because I think when he won, he was like super young too, because he was
Yeah.
like one of the first. Because there wasn't a lot of freshmen that ever won, and then I'm pretty sure he was only like in his second year when he won. It was like pretty rare at the time that anyone who like wasn't a junior or senior could win.
The really interesting thing, though, in terms of, we've spoken about the impact of the transfer portal on college football and the damage that that's doing. The interesting statistic was that I think it was that 7 of the last 10 Heisman Trophy winners have played for multiple schools.
Or yeah, and like transferred like the year before they won.
Yeah, and I mean the only one of those which, off the top of my head, feels understandable and defensible is Joe Burrow, because he was a backup and he went to LSU so that he could be a starter. And so like that's different. But a lot of them are guys who, as is the case with Mendoza, was a starter at one college and decided to go to another one because it was a bigger program and more chance of winning.
Yeah.
That just starts to feel a little bit weird after a certain moment in time.
Hey, I'll defend my boy Caleb Williams. He left Oklahoma because Lincoln Riley left, and he went to USC. So he followed him to USC.
Is that fine?
Yeah, yeah, because like you go to play for a coach, and then the coach leaves, so you want to stay with the coach. I think that's fine.
I guess. I don't know. So if the coach got
That's better than
fired,
Jaden Daniels.
the coach got
Well, the coach
fired,
didn't get
what,
fired.
you retire? Is that the move?
No, I don't know.
If Lincoln Riley had said, you know what, actually, I've had enough of this. I'm going to become a car salesman. Caleb Williams would be like, tell me the dealership
Maybe.
you're going to. I'll be there.
But you're recruited by coaches, like
I
a
get
lot of
that.
people go to a school because of a coach and like the
No, I
promises the
understand,
coach
but-
makes. I mean,
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels is the one who just ditched Arizona State to go to LSU for the money.
Yeah.
That's the worst of the. I mean, even Travis Hunter, you could say he switched schools, but he also followed Dion.
Yeah, and he went up significant. There, the size of school shift, although Colorado is not a massive football program, but I can at least somewhat understand that because he went from a really small,
Jackson State.
Yeah, to actually giving himself a reasonable shot. Like I can kind of get that move, but yeah, I mean,
So we're not bullies on the podcast, so we don't want to talk about Mendoza or his speeches or his demeanor.
the speech had good elements. I just wish, as someone who previously spent part of my life working as a speechwriter, you just look at it and think you could have improved. You could have made this so much better. It felt, and this is a challenge. I mean, the kids, I don't want to rip into him because he's whatever he is, 21 years old. It felt so much like, I mean, he was just reading. It was just him reading. I don't know if I feel like you should be able to give your Heisman speech sort of off the cuff. That realistically there you are just getting up to say, thank you to all my coaches. Thank you to my parents. Thank you to my family. Thank you to my teammates. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for all of these people. I don't think you need to be, it is such a pleasure to be here. I am so happy. My parents worked so hard for me. My grandparents also worked hard. I don't know if you necessarily need that. But
well, but the difference is, I think, at least with Mendoza, is like he does it like that, but then also puts in the like really weird excitement / crying noise, like way he speaks with the hand gestures. So he's like,
yeah.
I don't know if I could be here with them now. So it gets really strange really quick.
Well, it's tough because he's definitely watched public speaking YouTube videos or something. He's definitely, because you're right, he does the triangle power thing a lot, that people tell you to do.
All the time.
He also and this I got to be critical of him for. It didn't matter in the Heisman Trophy, but when you go back to his speech against the post game speeches that have gone
The
viral,
glow part.
don't he looks he's always looking at the camera, not the person speaking to him, and I find that very off putting. But yeah, he seems like a nice kid. I
Yeah,
think
he seems like a very nice kid.
it's genuinely nice. Again, similar to the Kirk Cousins environment, that feels like a tough transition into an NFL locker room where there's just going to be. And look, I mean, it's no different. He's thriving in a college locker room, and I doubt that's exactly the most comfortable space for him based on the way in the kind of type of things that might be going on. But it does feel a little bit like if you he'd be a slight fish out of water if you stick him into an NFL locker room. But you know, and maybe the public persona is very different from what he's like in private in a locker room, and maybe he's more at ease in that setting. But he does seem very, very nice, as does Sayin, the Ohio State quarterback. He seems like a nice kid. And Love seems nice. It's only Pavia who just came across as a complete asshole out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, did you see though the stats comparing him to Burrow's season, that Burrow one?
I did not know.
Oh my god, it's crazy.
I mean, I saw the yardage
So
one because
yeah,
I saw
Mendoza won obviously 2025, Burrow won in 2019. So Mendoza has 2,900 passing yards. Joe Burrow had 5,600. So almost double the amount of passing yards. Mendoza had 33 passing touchdowns. Burrow had 60. So almost double the amount of passing touchdowns. They both had the same amount of interceptions. Burrow's completion percentage was 76%. Mendoza's was only 71. And Burrow's QB rating was 202 and Mendoza's was 181. And they obviously, one won the national championship, but that doesn't matter because they do that before. They were on I guess the best team going into the Heisman.
Because that's the other conversation to have. Should the Heisman, I know it's a regular season award, fundamentally, but shouldn't you have this at the end of the entire college season? Like, why would you be leaving out?
Now you should.
Yeah, like when you have the playoffs and you have the chance. For example, if Indiana loses in their first playoff game and then Ohio State goes on to win the national championship, then you could come away from that saying, I think Sayin should be the Heisman. Like but not
especially
only
now, I think when teams can get away with not playing many good opponents, and Indiana had this issue last year. This year, they actually did have a much harder schedule. I mean, they played Oregon and Ohio State and beat them both, right? So, that's a different story this year. But in last year, if this were Mendoza, he could have gone on win the Heisman and played one team in the top 25, and that was like number 25. So at least now with the playoffs, you get to see them against good competition. Like I'd like to see Mendoza against an SEC defense, like against Georgia or Alabama, and like see how it holds up.
yeah. And now, admittedly, only two of the four players who were finalists are actually in the playoffs. So you could say that if you had it postseason, they're immediately eliminated from consideration, I suppose. Like that's the trade-off is that, but there is a player who could go on a historic playoff run, even from one of the, players who was not a finalist now, who carries their team to a national championship, with good performances in 3 or 4 games. And then as a result of that, they feel like they should, that feels like the person who should be the Heisman Trophy winner. I think because it's true that most American sports, the MVP, it's a regular season award, and it is decided before the playoffs are finished. But that feels different because that is a very clear regular season kind of nomination. This is like you're the best football player in college football this year, based on 80% of the college football season. Like that's slightly strange. And as you pointed out, potentially before your team has faced any of the real challenges that they're going to face. So, like if Mendoza goes out and absolutely shits the bed in the playoff game, throws 7 interceptions, it's going to then feel weird that he's also the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, I agree.
But
So Eddie, we'll do one little Heisman trivia then.
Okay.
Since 2016, every Heisman winner but 2 was drafted either first or second in the draft. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with Mendoza, obviously, but there are indications that he was going to be the top pick in the draft this year.
Yeah.
And hopefully the Giants get the number 1 pick so they can trade down, and some idiot like the Las Vegas Raiders will overpay for Mendoza. But there's only been 2. Can you name the 2 players in the last 10 years that have won the Heisman but were not drafted first or second? And tell me when you want clues.
Okay. Let me think quickly.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the ones that immediately come to mind, and all of those were taken in the first one or two. So that's tough. Were either of them? Well, Travis Hunter didn't go 1 or 2, did he? No,
He went
did.
2.
Oh, he went
Yeah,
2.
it was second
Shit.
to the Jags.
Where was Jaden Daniels drafted? Did the Commanders have a top 2 pick? Was Jaden Daniels a top 2 pick?
Yeah, he was second as well.
Oh my god. And then what?
Do you want? I can give you the
Hold on,
year.
no.
Okay.
Don't give me. Let me think of the ones I can definitely name. So in the
Okay.
last 10 years, who else would have been? So Burrow went first overall, right?
Yes, he did. Go
Bryce
first
Young
overall.
won. Did the Panthers
Bryce Young
have?
won.
The Panthers have a top 2 pick that season? You're nodding, so that's a yes.
Yeah, they did the first pick.
Baker Mayfield won. The Browns. Baker Mayfield went 1 overall, didn't he?
He did. Yes, they always have the first pick. The Browns.
Is it a quarterback? Is one of them a quarterback?
One of them is a quarterback.
Oh, Lamar.
Lamar Jackson in
went like-
2016
he went like
was the
30th or-
32nd pick in the NFL draft. Yep, from Louisville to the Ravens.
And so the other
Now
one is
you're
not a
missing one.
quarterback.
The other one is not a quarterback. He's the only non-quarterback to win. Oh, besides Hunter, Grandma Hunter, in the last 10 years.
Okay, give me the school he played for.
School he played for?
Yeah.
Or if I
where
told
he
you he's won a Super Bowl.
No, tell me the school. Tell me the school he played for.
Alabama.
Oh, Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. He
Where
went
did he
10th
go?
overall to the Eagles.
10th.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is going to be an underwhelming draft class by the looks of it. So, Mendoza will almost I guess the only thing that could hurt Mendoza potentially is, who ends up with the first 2 picks, and do they need a quarterback? That's the only thing. And is someone desperate enough to want to get Mendoza that they need to trade up into those first 2 spots? That will be the only thing that could stop him. But certainly there's no quarterbacks who you could imagine being drafted ahead of him.
Yeah. And a great trivia question for anyone out there if you want to try and stump your friends. In the last 25 years, only one Heisman winner has went undrafted. And that was Jason White from Oklahoma in 2003.
Well, speaking of teams who maybe this summer might be interested in drafting a quarterback, when that was certainly not on the cards coming into this season, is Kansas City Chiefs, who,
What a way to go out.
yeah, with on the back of, being eliminated from the playoffs, or mathematically not quite yet, right?
They were. No, they were.
As it played out. But I mean, even if it mathematically had not been the case, certainly we're not going to make the playoffs. But raises an interesting question. In the final seconds of that game, Patrick Mahomes seemingly ruptured his ACL and MCL and LCL, sorry, ACL and LCL. Makes it highly unlikely that he is ready to go at the beginning of the 2026 season. The Chiefs have said that it's theoretically possible. They're obviously open to that, but there's a strong chance that he will miss the beginning of the 2026 season and may even not be good to go before the 2027 season. Possibly. People come back faster than expected now, more often than they take longer.
Yeah.
But it raises, I've got 2 questions for you on the back of that. One, if you are Travis Kelce, Does this just mean you're retiring this
Oh,
summer?
I think he was retiring anyway. I think one, he now has set up his post-career life pretty well, both romantically and at job security with the podcast, and I'm sure he'll be on with his brother, whatever, Fox or CBS or all those as well, ESPN. So I think he set himself up nicely. You could tell he is not what he used to be. He leads the NFL in drops this year, which is a crazy stat to think about, that Travis Kelce has the most drops in the NFL. I think he's done. Like you can tell he's not what he was. Like you can still go to him and rely on him a little bit, but the speed isn't there anymore. The breakaway isn't there, and the blocking is really bad. So I think he's done, and that solidified it. I mean, there's no way he's going to come back and not have his best friend there for the majority of the year.
All right. So that's settled. Although I will say the rumor mill had said that there was a little bit of there were arguments going on between Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce because she wants him to retire, but the suggestions were that he wanted to keep playing for a while. Just saying. That's
Oh,
the internet.
Where are you getting that? We're not a bully podcast, but we spread fucking terrible rumors.
Rumors were out there.
Dumois tell you that one?
Just saying, the rumors were out there. Supposedly that and their prenup. Both of those were causing some challenges ahead of their wedding. But there's that. Second question. Does Patrick Mahomes win another Super Bowl before he retires?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this because as someone who is an enormous Patrick Mahomes fan and think he's obviously the best, besides Brady, the last best quarterback of the past 15 years, maybe, let's say. And I think at his prime, he was, one of the best that we've seen in a very long time. Part of me in the back of my head started thinking, is this legitimately the end of Patrick Mahomes? And like the past 2 years haven't been his best years by far. And we see Tom Brady, right? And we think, oh, quarterbacks and we see Aaron Rodgers. We think quarterbacks, they can last till they're 40. But that's not always the case. And especially someone like Mahomes, who's so creative and does so much kind of just like with his feet and like the quick acceleration he has. He's not the fastest, but he's really quick and being able to make, make plays and get out of the pocket and things like that. How sustainable is that as you get older, and especially coming off a major knee injury now? His arm is still strong, but the accuracy really wasn't as good this year and definitely not last year. It really pains me to say, but like there is a strong potential this could be the beginning of the end for Mahomes. As sad as that is to hear, and I think the NFL will kind of definitely miss that if that is the case, because right now you don't have that many great quarterbacks.
Do we not?
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like this is
Who's an elite quarterback?
I think you have three other than Mahomes right now. So I think Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow.
No. Lamar Jackson is not elite anymore. I mean, this season he is not. This season he's a top 20.
Careful, because you might be about to see the Ravens win the Super Bowl. So don't hand out the Heisman trophies too early in the season, because I don't know. There's no great
I think this
teams.
could be the beginning and end for Lamar Jackson.
Oh, come on.
But
he just put in a really good performance in their biggest game of the season. And, you can't give a pass to either Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, who have both been underwhelming. Joe Burrow has serious injury issues that consistently plague his career now, to the point where putting him in the great category is tough because you can't guarantee that he'll even play 12 or 13 games a season.
He's great the 7 games he's on the field.
Yeah, aside from last week.
Except last week.
And then Josh Allen has also, I don't think Josh Allen has been better than Lamar Jackson this season.
Oh, come on. Get out of here. That's a crazy statement. He's going to win the MVP.
No, he isn't. Matthew Stafford's going to win the MVP.
No, Josh Allen's going to win.
No, Matthew Stafford is winning the MVP. Josh Allen's might not even be making the playoffs. Never mind winning the MVP.
They're going to win the division and the MVP.
But Yeah, I think those three, and then I think you have other people who are on the cusp who potentially in the next year or two could make that leap. So y- that's Justin Herbert. If he can stay healthy and if the team can stay healthy and they can kind of start putting stuff together, I suppose on the back of how this
We
season has gone.
we we don't want you in the Herbert fan club, Eddie. Don't try and
I'll
get in
never be
now.
there. I will never be a
Don't
paid
try and get
member.
in now. Don't try and kiss into the
No, no, no.
Herbert fan club,
Oh,
Eddie. We don't want you.
I wouldn't put Herbert, and I don't want to steal concept ideas because the Simmons podcast just did his QB ranking in his latest episode. So I'm not
Oh, he
trying to.
did?
Yeah, he did. He loves ranking. He loves lists.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of tism about the
Well, he
Simmons podcast at times. And he does love listing things, but the big debate was Herbert versus Purdy. That was that was like part of the big. And regardless, I think Herbert is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. But, you know, th both of them should end up being in the playoffs this season, and a lot of where they stand in that kind of QB ranking will be determined by how those teams do, Because I think for starters, already we're looking at there's gonna be almost certainly gonna be a new Super Bowl winner. So that's gonna change how we feel about one of these quarterbacks because it's not gonna be Patrick Mahomes. It's unlikely to be Jalen Hurts, again, based on how the Eagles are playing. So you are gonna look at someone new getting to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and that's gonna change their perception drastically as well. So whether that's Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Bo Nix, theoretically, like how different even though Bo Nix has had a weird season in which he's been bad for large parts of games, but then great on game-winning drives, that we'll feel differently about that. And same Trevor Lawrence kind of restoring some of his reputation a bit. Like he
yeah.
can't as bad as he's still been really bad for parts of this season and he's thrown some really terrible interceptions. But he's at least pulled himself away from the complete bust conversation.
Yeah, I both Trevor Lawrence and Bo Nix both had really impressive games last week. One was against a very good team, and one was not against a good team. But I kind of have to step back from my Bo Nix hate. After watching that entire game, he did look good, and I don't know. Maybe that was the anomaly of his career, and that's like the greatest game ever. I like that. That would be kind of tough to believe, but he did look very good in that game. Like I was overly impressed with what I saw in Bo Nix in their last win. So maybe he is starting to settle in and become a better quarterback. The Trevor Lawrence one is crazy. If in 2 years Trevor Lawrence wins an MVP, that would be one of the most insane things I think to ever happen. Where a quarterback for 4 years was supposed to be the next great quarterback and never really panned out, and then it just took him a good 7 years in the league to get comfortable. I mean, that would be crazy.
Yeah, but definitely possible, right? And yeah, going back to the Bo Nix thing, the thing that's undeniable is that he's just kind of a winner. And he's helped. He has an elite defense backing him up and giving him as many chances as possible to recover from mistakes that he might make or failed drives that they have. Or, they can find themselves like in that Packers game, seemingly out of the game. It felt like whenever the Packers were up by 8 or 9, whatever the scoreline was at that stage, it felt like they were going to be able to pull away. And that defense gives them a chance because it's he can play and they can play in a way knowing that we might be able to get the ball back from a turnover, but more importantly, the opposition might not score again. So it might not look great right now that they have the ball up 9 with a quarter and a half to go, but there's a chance that you say, if we can just score 14 points, we're winning this game. Whereas there's a lot of quarterbacks, if you look at Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow, they kind of don't have that luxury because usually when they find themselves down, it's like, we're losing by 3. We just need to score 21 more points and we might have a chance of winning this game. Like that. It's a really different equation. But his career record in the NFL now, he's 22-9. Like that's through 2
Yeah, it's crazy.
seasons. That's not bad.
No, it's better than not bad. It's really good for a quarterback, a new quarterback. Yeah.
Then the other obviously big quarterback talking point from the weekend was Phillip Rivers, who was both better than I expected him to be and much worse than I expected him to be.
I think he's getting slightly overpraised.
I do too.
And I here's the thing. I think in context, he's getting the correct amount of praise, but you can't use that context in the overall performance. Like a lot of people are saying, hey, like for 44, he looked pretty good out there. Like he stood his own, he made some nice throws. It's like, yeah, okay. But it's he's not playing like the Masters like league in the NFL. He's playing in the
Yeah.
whole NFL. And as an NFL quarterback, he didn't look fucking very good. Like all they did was run the ball or throw 5-yard passes. Like he was an emergency quarterback at best. Like he had one touchdown pass and one decent drive, but otherwise it was all handoff or like 5-yard pass. That was it. Like he looked like a third string quarterback. He did not look like an NFL starter.
Yeah, and I feel weird about it because, yeah, I mean, it's a really nice story.
And that's no disrespect to Phillip Rivers. I love Phillip Rivers.
No, it's a nice
But
story, and I think
like, yeah.
he's handled it well, where when he speaks, he says, "I'm not here to be the hero. I'm just here to, like, not make mistakes, let the defense win games, let Taylor win games. I'm just here to kind of play my part and slowly get a little bit better." But it feels strange because the Colts are in a position still to make the playoffs, but they need to win games. So they don't have the luxury. This isn't a situation of we're definitely going to be in the playoffs, but we can kind of punt on the final 3 or 4 regular season games. And then Phillip Rivers is going to be the quarterback who puts us in the best position in the postseason. They have to win now. And I found it hard to watch that game and come away from it thinking that Phillip Rivers was the quarterback that they could have put in there with the best chance of winning that game. And the only argument behind it is, oh, he knows their playbook. So does the other backup on the team. And then the only other thing, which they did make a big deal out of, was that he reads defenses. I don't know, when you were watching the game, they kept cutting to like the audibles he was calling at the line of scrimmage, like, oh, no one else makes reads like this
Yeah.
anymore. This is old school quarterback reads where he's looking where the linebackers are lining up and he's seeing those gaps, and quarterbacks just don't do this anymore. This is a throwback to 20 years ago. That was great. But then there was a moment where I was watching where he made a big deal of this fucking audible that he called, and he made Taylor move from his right to his left. And then he handed the ball off. Taylor got stuffed for a 4-yard loss. It's like, what was the read? What was the read he was making there? And then ultimately over the course of the game, I mean, they should have won that game. Their defense played exceptionally well. He was
Great.
getting good field position consistently and wasn't even getting them into field goal range. They had a field goal kicker who hit a 57-yarder with a minute left to give them the lead, where if he'd just been able to get one more first down, that it would have at
Game
least
over.
been, like the game-winning attempt at a field goal. And he couldn't do that. On that drive, he had one good third down conversion. That was the only thing you could say there. But he can't throw the ball more than 15 yards downfield. And
Yeah.
eventually the Seahawks figured that out and just realized, like, it doesn't matter. We can just, like, let a guy run free. Just, no, but honestly, like, we don't even need safeties anymore. Just everyone can stand. We can just compress. It's as if just run your, like, goal line defense all game long, because
Yeah.
there's absolutely nothing he can do to get the ball. And that you
Yeah.
cannot convince me that there wasn't someone else they could have signed who would have at least scared the Seahawks defense a bit more, that they were going to put a big play together at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there has to have been someone who at least still kind of in the NFL and still has a pretty live arm. I think this upcoming week will be the real test, because it's like you said, it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be that was his first game back and obviously he was rusty, but now that he's had time with like the same Shador Sanders thing, he's never had reps with the first team really. So now he'll have a lot of reps with the first team. Maybe there'll be better plays, better throws, better connection with his receivers, and it gets better. Or who they're playing sees what they saw and, like you said, says, hey, we can just put everyone in on the box because this guy can't throw deep, and it becomes even worse of a performance. It's going to be one of those two. And I think I'm leaning more towards the latter scenario. I forget who they're playing, actually, now that I forget. And now we're saying this.
They're playing
They
the
play the
49ers,
Niners. They're the Niners, right?
whose
Yeah, who have a
defense over the
terrible
last few
defense.
weeks,
Yeah.
whose defense has been great. And you're going to have Robert
Yeah.
Saleh just plotting all week of all we have to do is stop Taylor. Like, legitimately now, that was already under, even with Daniel Jones under center, that was kind of the scenario. No, but
Easy there.
it's still fun, and we've spoken about it, right? Like, you can when Taylor doesn't score a touchdown, the Colts don't win. Like, the correlation between how well their running game works to how well they do. I mean, Daniel Jones had a great season, but still fundamentally they were a run-first team that needed their run game to be effective, both from Taylor and from Jones. Now you've removed the possibility. I mean, Philip Rivers, I found it kind of nice because honestly, for all of my proclamations as to how I could do in the NFL, watching Philip Rivers play quarterback, it made me feel a little bit like they'd stuck me into an NFL game. That one play where he slipped moving backwards and then got up and then slipped again moving forwards.
Twice,
I was like, this could have been me. That's exactly how it would play out if it was like, okay, you're going to play one snap at quarterback in the NFL, and it would have been 3-stop drop, panic as the pressure's coming, fall over, get back up, not wanting to get hit, fall over again, and just give up.
See, now I saw that and I thought, man, that was a guy who was at the time, back in the day, one of the best NFL quarterbacks ever. And even now he's having trouble. Imagine what a generic like Eddie would do on the field.
We're getting called generics now? No, I think that's look, I think it for the average man, it was kind of a nice experience. Like,
Yeah,
to a certain extent, the whole argument of could an average person pick up 1 yard on like, I think Philip Rivers kind of proved that you could because realistically it's saying, yeah, if your offensive line is okay and you do get a bit of time, I mean, his arm looked
He
awful.
took some big shots.
He did.
Early, too.
And he said he liked that. He said that was the one thing he missed because he's a psycho. He has that going for him. He is a complete and utter psycho. And that's what separates him.
Yeah.
That's what separates him from you or I is that, yeah, I would take that big shot and then not want to come back in again. He takes the big shot and thinks, this is what I came for. This is the only, like, he might have been holding onto the ball just to get sacked, because he likes the feeling.
I don't know if it's just me, but whenever I see him, I just can't stop thinking of Tim.
Yeah, he does have some Tim vibes.
Like, Tim is forever connected with Philip Rivers to me just because they're both insane.
But I do think it kind of made you like, I'm not sure Philip Rivers' arm right now is all that much better than my arm is right now.
Wow.
I mean,
100% it is.
It is, definitely it is, but it's not that much better. Like, he only had he had maybe two good throws.
You got let's cool it here.
No.
This guy has a cannon, and even at 44,
anymore.
I bet you he
not
still.
Anymore.
I bet you he still does.
Well, where was it? Where was it? He couldn't have pulled out the cannon once and put it this way: if he'd had a cannon when they got the ball back with 3 timeouts left and whatever it was, 25 seconds, we would have seen the cannon. There was no cannon there.
They're holding the cannon back for next week.
For when they really didn't need it, because that was the depressing part. The depressing part was when he got the ball back, and it was like, oh, they still have their 3 timeouts. They only need 25 yards. Like,
that game almost didn't want to end.
Yeah, and it was like 13 seconds left or whatever it was when they got the ball back. But
it was like 20.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
With 3 timeouts, they had a shot. And
2 passes, maybe like 2 15-yard passes, and you're in with at least a chance.
Yeah, and they didn't even try, really. Like, there was no attempt there. I'll put this: there's no way Tom Brady would have come back, but I'd have no doubt that Tom Brady would be better tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, and again, the Colts were not going to be able to lure Tom Brady coming. I think Peyton Manning would have been a better option. It's hard for me to imagine from that generation. Drew Brees' arm was shot. I mean, it's true that Peyton Manning had sort of fused his neck by the time he retired. So I don't know what that looks like now when he's trying to run around. But, he couldn't talk Andrew Luck into playing 4 games, something.
Fuck no.
Like as outrageous as this is, on the back of that, I would have rather given a call to Cam Newton or Colin Kaepernick. Honestly, Colin Kaepernick
Well,
is probably still at least in shape. He could have just gone wildcat basically with Colin Kaepernick.
oh God. The Cam Newton one would have been good because, like he's smart. He's very smart to kind of say he feels offended, but not actually do it, because the amount of criticism he would get if he went in and didn't play well would be enormous.
Yeah, and that would have been the thing too. If I'd been the Colts, you would have like I actually like both Cam Newton and Colin Kaepernick. I think both of them have been treated somewhat generously post-retirement as to how good/bad they were in the final couple years of their careers. But they but you could have called both of their bluffs as two guys who do like to throw their hats into the ring. I think maybe not with especially in the case of Cam Newton, I think not with any real intent of coming back.
Yeah.
You could have at least said, "Hey, Cam Newton, come on in. Here you go. Here's a 2-week contract. Come and play." Same to Colin Kaepernick. Come. We'll give both of you
Bring all three of them and Rivers. QB
Yes.
tryout. 2-day QB tryout.
QB by committee. Just have them rotating throughout the game. Just keep
Sorry,
the
Cam,
defense
you
on
gotta
there.
take your hat off.
No, you could get a specially made one of the
Guardian caps.
Guardian
A Guardian
caps.
cap with a feather in it. That would have been amazing.
But yeah, yeah. But I just good for him. It's a nice, fun little story, but it's not going to get better. It's really not.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see pretty quickly if it does.
Yeah. Other big talking points, obviously, it's, been a few days, so we don't need to do like full game breakdowns. But the Bills' comeback against the Patriots was obviously extremely significant. They were 21 points down. It looked like game over in the first quarter, and they managed to come back big for their playoff positioning. Also keeps that division alive, keeps the possibility that the Bills could get, a 1 or 2 seed and get a bye, potentially have home field advantage through the playoffs. They still need some things to go their way now in order to be able to achieve that, but it's at least kept that a live option.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, the way that the games played out, we still have 2 weeks left in the season, right? 2 weeks? 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3. We have 3 weeks left in the season, but actually most of the playoff spots are pretty much filled up, which is kind of shitty. Like I'd expect it to have been a little more chaotic, but I mean, basically you have right now the Broncos clinched, the Patriots 99% chance, Jags 98% chance, the Chargers 94%, Bills 99%, and the Texans 96% in the AFC. So the only one that's really up for grabs in the AFC still is the Steelers and the Ravens. And you have a slight outside shot of the Colts if they, win out and a lot of other things happen. But that's basically all that's left in the AFC is Ravens and Steelers and potentially the Colts if someone implodes.
Yeah, and it's just competing for positioning now, right? Like that's the only thing. And there's a lot of teams even this week will cement even more of those positions. So the Eagles, for example, if they beat the Commanders on Saturday, they clinch the NFC East. The
Niners didn't get the
will,
NFC yet.
Oh,
Let's
sorry.
talk about the AFC.
Okay, well, we'll do I'll focus just on the AFC then.
Thank you.
The Patriots will clinch their playoff spot with a win this weekend against the Ravens. Or if the Colts lose to the Niners.
Yeah.
Or if Houston loses to Las Vegas. But yeah, it's the Chargers clinch a playoff spot with a win and some combination of losses from Houston or Indianapolis. So that feels likely too. So yeah, by the end of this weekend, basically almost
the
everything
AFC is pretty much wrapped. Yeah. The AFC will be pretty much wrapped almost after this week, except the Steelers and Ravens, because there's the chance that will come down to the last week when they play each other.
Yeah. Which I think we desperately have to hope for, because otherwise that final week of the season will be completely unwatchable.
Completely meaningless. Yeah. Very true. And then in the NFC, um, it's basically two divisions that are kind of not screwing things up, but kind of keeping things interesting, I guess you could say. So you have the Rams are in first right now and have clinched a spot. Then you have the Bears that are in second, but they still only have a 76% chance of making the playoffs, even ranked currently second right now. Then the Eagles, 99% chance, and then the Bucks, 79% chance, but that's still up for grabs. And then in the wild card spots, you have the Seahawks at 99%, the Niners at 98%, and the Packers at 89. And so the real only movement there is the Lions are currently out of the playoffs, but potentially could be in with the way that the Bears and the Packers are all in the same division, and things could, shift a little bit there. And then you have the Panthers right now sitting at 7-7, who can push to beat the Bucks out. The Bucks are also 7-7, but are winning on the tiebreaker for that division. This is the only time, like, seeing this, I mean, we talk about it almost every year, but this is one in particular for me where it's like, I kind of wish the division thing wasn't a thing, because if you ask someone, would you rather see the Lions in the playoffs or potentially the Panthers or the Bucks? I mean, I would much rather see the Lions. I think they're much more deserving to be in the playoffs, and I think they're a better team. And I think the Lions, I mean, they could potentially win the NFC. I don't think there's a chance that the Panthers or the Bucks could win the NFC.
The Bucks know because they are just so they've been so impacted by injuries over the course of the season. I'd give the Panthers a slightly better chance, but yeah, I still would say no. But the the interesting thing here, right? How much of it, if you're a team, how much do you start to think about what your playoff sort of path could look like? So you take in the AFC, for example, the Bills right now would go to Jacksonville in round
Yeah.
one, whereas the Patriots would be at home to the Texans. I would rather play the Jags in round one, even on the road, than be home for a Texans team that possibly has the best defense in the league. And
All
CJ
right, Bill
Stroud is,
Simmons.
well, no, but I'm just saying, like, and CJ Stroud is finding his feet again. Like, that feels like a much
Yeah.
tougher out. So there, if you're the Bills, is there part of you that thinks, okay, we're going to lose home field, but this is easier. And we have this discussion when it gets to the World Cup and everything, right? And realistically, you don't want to overthink things and just win your games. And if you're going to
Yeah.
win the Super Bowl, you're going to have to beat teams. So you can't think too hard about trying to make a slightly easier matchup in round one, because either you could just lose that, which we've seen teams do in the past anyway, or you're going to play a good team in round two. So, like, who really cares? But, you do look at this. I mean, there.
The interesting question would be if it went down to the last week and there was the potential, if you won, like, let's say the Pats and the Bills are kind of even going into the last week, and if the Pats lose and the Bills win, the Bills get the spot. But if the Pats win and the Bills lose, then the Pats get it. If you're the Bills, do you just rest people and say, we're in the playoffs no matter what? We don't want to have to worry about whether the Pats win or lose. Like, we're just going to rest everyone and get ready for the playoffs. Or like, how do the fans react to that? Like, as a fan, are you upset then that's like, hey, like, I want a home playoff game, like, I have season tickets. I want to fucking get a home playoff game. Like, bullshit, you got to play because that's what we want. Like, how does that service the fans? And then what you're saying, how does it service, like, who you're going to play in that first round? Like, what's more important? How do you weigh that? Like, the rest, some teams don't like the rest, some teams do. So that'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see if that happens.
Yeah, the rust versus rest debate, which comes up every year. But yeah, and I mean, you look at this playoff picture, and it is pretty much set. We kind of know the teams that are going to be involved, give or take one or two, in both the AFC and the NFC. And you do look at it and you say, if you're in the NFC, the team that you want to play is undoubtedly going to be the Bucks or the Panthers.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you're the
Oh, yeah.
Niners, if you're the Niners or the Seahawks, who probably are going to be the ones sort of competing for that, the 5 seed playing the 4 seed, which is probably going to be the matchup that gets you that opponent. There, realistically, yeah, in the final week of the season, are you happier you desperately want to be the 5 seed because at the moment right now, so it's Seahawks at Bucks, whereas the Niners are going against the Eagles. I mean, honestly, I would expect both of those teams. I would expect both of the road teams to win those games based on current matchups. But obviously, I'd much rather play the Bucks than play the Eagles. And then, the reverse is like the Packers who are currently the 7 seed as things play out. They right now would be on the road against the Bears, which is, how can you avoid trying to face the Bears team, which is, a tough opponent. And I guess speaking about the impact of the Mahomes injury on the Chiefs, we remiss not to mention the impact of the injuries that the Packers suffered this weekend to Watson and Parsons, and like does
Oh
that
yeah.
eliminate them from Super Bowl contention to have lost their most important defensive player and their biggest offensive threat?
Yeah. I mean, their most important defensive player who also was catching fire like the last 5 or 6 weeks. I mean, every week he was getting better and better. And even in that game, he was a force most of that game until he went down. It's a huge loss. That completely changes the dynamic because that pass rush, it's so important when you're in those close games and like you're up 3 with a minute left and the team has to throw and you can just let Parsons go wild. Like without that, that's such a game changer. It really sucks. And it's really unfortunate because obviously, they went out of their way and traded for him and got him. And now, you're getting into the playoff picture and now is when you really need them. Now when it's super important and now you don't have them, which sucks. But yeah, that it definitely changes my opinion on whether I think the Packers are the best team now in the NFC.
Yeah, and Watson is supposed to be back potentially even this weekend. That seems like an unnecessary risk. But yeah, I don't know. The Parsons injury does feel, a huge game changer from the Packers' perspective. And then, yeah, I mean, looking elsewhere, it will be a shame for the Lions to miss out. And in a sense, this weekend was the story of the Lions season, which for parts of that game, they looked untouchable. In the first half, it was like, oh, the Lions are better than the Rams. This is the Lions team this is who we thought they were. And then the second half, just the wheels gradually came off, and they have a couple bad drives, and they can't get stops when they need to get them. And then they go from they're in games where they're up by 7, and then next time you look back, they're down by 10. Like, it's a bizarre team in that respect.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know what to make. And what's crazy is like they have so many playmakers. Like like just when you think it's now Gibbs is going to be all over the place, and then it's like he didn't have a great game, but then St. Brown had 150 yards. Like they're just all like. It's a shame that their defense has just been run apart again like last year. They're just losing people like crazy. Um, and again, I think it's the same thing as last year. I just don't think they have the defense. Like at a point, you need a defense that can at least do something, make turnovers, get a few big stops, and that defense doesn't seem like they can with injuries and everything else. So,
Yeah. And that's going to be the issue for a couple of playoff teams, right? It's why I don't have a huge amount of faith in the Bills going into the playoffs because of their defense, and the same for the potentially for the Ravens. It's just that lack of confidence I have in them defensively means how can you trust them to win, consecutive games against tough opposition? I think it's hard to see that. And I know that probably hurts you on the Bills' perspective because you're such a Josh Allen fanboy. Although I don't really know, you're a fanboy of pretty much every quarterback. So I don't like aside from Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson, I think you're basically
I like Brock Purdy.
Okay, just not Lamar Jackson then. But
And just not this year, Lamar Jackson. I normally like Lamar Jackson. I just think this year he's not having a great year. Can't
but
deny it.
one other takeaway from from that Rams Lions game, that the Parkinson touchdown catch, I don't get the rules
Oh.
anymore. I don't get. I
So
think the ball touched the ground. Like that to me was pretty evident when you watched the. Like I'm not even getting into the was he down at the 1 or was it a touchdown. I don't think he caught the ball, and they just kind of moved past that really quickly as if that wasn't even. And I think it was Tom Brady was in the booth kind of speaking about it. they were debating whether or not he was down or not, but no one ever mentioned, you can see the ball moving, and it looks like it touches the ground there.
Yeah.
And they basically generously use that as an interpretation that he didn't have control of the ball until he then rolled into the end zone, which is why it's a touchdown instead of him being down by contact inside the 1-yard line. I just don't think he caught it at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I was actually going to ask you because you had sent a message being like, I now officially don't understand, what a catch is and what isn't. Are we sure that that was an issue with the rule or an issue with the ref? Because I kind of thought like maybe this is just the ref has fucked up and like isn't seeing what we're seeing. Like maybe it's not so much that the rule is strange. Maybe he's just not seeing it correctly and he's making the wrong call, even under the camera or whatever. What do you want to call it?
The hood?
The
Yeah,
hood. There you go.
I
He's
don't
under
know.
the hood.
I just don't from one week to the next,
Because the
technology
explanation, there wasn't a real explanation. And that's what makes me think that it was the ref.
post game, the explanation is, oh, he didn't establish control of the ball until he'd rolled into the end zone, so therefore he wasn't down by contact. Okay, I guess I don't know, but again, and I just felt like they didn't even look into the possibility of him not catching it. And I mean, there was drama. I don't know if you saw in the test match between England and Australia yesterday, where uh, Alex Carey was given not out on the field for caught behind. England reviewed it, and then when they went to the review, although there was a spike in the sound, so they used the snicko, the noise that aligns with the video to try and see if there's contact on the bat. It was out of sync, and so the sound was appearing before the ball got to the bat. So then the decision on the field was upheld. As it transpired, the engineer who was supposed to kind of produce those videos that then the umpires look at had accidentally selected the microphone from the bowler's stump mic and not the batsman's stump mic,
Ooh.
and that's why the sound was out of sync, because it was picking up different sounds. And that's just post match. This is just like, oh, shit happens. Or post day's play, like Alex Carey went on to score another 30 runs. Oh well, and you look at that and you think of all the technology that you're investing, the possibility still for human error playing a part in this. And as I said, with this, it feels like they just, and obviously the conversation that the announcers are having is not the same one that the officials are having, but it did just feel like no one's looking to see if he's even caught the ball. The discussion is just down by one, or it's like we've just fast forwarded it 2 steps. And I can't reconcile the decision that was made in the Packers, the Steelers Ravens game from whenever that was, 2 weeks ago or a week ago, with this, like the
Yeah.
ability, that the speed at which you can establish control at different moments in time, like it doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't, and no one's going to be able to. I understand I can still watch a game and I know when it's going to be a catch or not, but you watch them and you go, okay, so if your butt hits the ground as you roll out of the end zone, you've instantly established control of the ball, so that's good. But if you're on your feet, you possibly need to take 3 steps. Like this
7
doesn't
steps.
like and make
a
a
football
move, whatever the
And
fuck that means.
and call for a popcorn from the guy in the 5th row.
Yeah, like it just there has to be some
And if you're in the end
consistency.
zone, you have to wait 7 seconds. That's the
Yes.
additional rule in the end zone.
Yeah, and if you're going out of bounds forwards, your tiptoes can get in, and that's fine. If you're going out backwards, your tiptoes, you need to get your heel down as well, because
Yeah.
that suddenly matters all of a sudden because of
Yeah.
your back. Like it's bizarre. It feels at times like it's like playing a game with a 6-year-old where they're sort of adding rules on as you go, mostly working in their own favor. And so like something happens and it's like, oh, so what do we do in this scenario? It's like, oh, you have to eat a fish then. Like that's like, and this is sort of how the NFL's interpretations of catches is being put together.
Yeah.
Any other big storylines from the NFL?
No, not really. I think, like I said, I think the playoff picture is working out too neatly, unfortunately. So there's going to be a lot less, I think, in these last few weeks to play for, which would be great
But
for
is
us.
this not lining? I mean, in part, this is due to a lack of great teams. But this feels like it could be the most exciting playoffs we've had in a
Yeah,
long,
once we
long
get to the
time.
playoffs, for sure. I'm going to lose so much money on this playoffs. For sure,
because because
100%.
because legitimately, all but one or two of these teams, I think, are going to have realistic chances of winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And would tell themselves that, which is, and not be insane. Like, usually it comes into this postseason and you listen to, I don't know, the 49ers saying, yeah, we feel like we can win the Super Bowl. And you're like, no, you can't. You can maybe win one game, but you probably won't even do that. And then this time around, it's like, I don't know. They could win the Super Bowl. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll see. It will pain me if my Niners Nation allegiances and preseason I didn't have the guts to pick them to be Super Bowl winners. If they then go on to win the Super Bowl, what a shame that would prove to be.
I think we'll be all right.
So do I. But you never know. In the Premier League, I guess we can speak briefly about that. Comfortable wins for most of the big boys, except for Arsenal, who scraped by against Wolves. Had to
Oh,
have
God.
two own goals scored, including a last minute own goal to win it after they had looked like they'd blown it. And it just feels like we're headed towards Manchester City winning the Premier League. This feels like
Yeah, for
this feels
sure.
like we're 4 years ago, and you can just have the confidence that, like, I still don't fully trust, as I've said before, I still don't defensively, I don't fully trust City, and they maybe got a little bit lucky against Palace, that Palace had chances that they didn't take, or, things could have gone slightly differently in that match. But away at Palace is a tricky match, and to come out of that with a 3-0 victory whilst Arsenal struggled in what on paper is the easiest match they could have all season, which is home to Wolves. It just feels like we're headed towards the inevitable City gradually pulling away from Arsenal. And I mean, the real issue for Arsenal is they are so boring to watch. So boring to watch. It's all set pieces, and it's laughable that on the back of that match, a lot of Arsenal supporters were complaining about the way teams set up against them, and they were complaining about Wolves coming and not playing proper football and just trying to get a draw. I think that's two teams trying to get a draw. Like, I watched that. I wasn't sure either of them actually wanted to win or were going to show any attacking intent. Arsenal is so reliant on set pieces. You know, Overwhelming majority of goals come from that. And fundamentally, it all comes back to the fact, in seasons past when we've spoken about what do Arsenal desperately need, which is a goal scorer, and they went out and spent tens of millions of pounds this summer to try and address that. And I think it was a swing and a miss. I mean, they did not get the goal scorer that they needed. It looks like they overpaid for a player who was playing for Coventry 5 seasons ago, which is exactly what they did. But, I do not think they have solved the problems up front. And ultimately, they are entirely reliant on Saka creating things and then maybe a little bit of, one or two other players chipping in from time to time. But there is not a lot of creativity within that side.
Yeah, not yeah, there's definitely not a lot of goal scorers right now for them, and it's that did you see was it you that sent it to me, or did I send it to someone about the Instagram reel of, the Wolves fans being like, "You're telling us we scored 2 goals and Arsenal scored none and we still lost?"
No, they scored all 3 goals and they lost
Oh, yeah, all
2-1.
3, sorry, all 3, yeah, all 3, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super funny. Yeah, I mean, that was such a lucky win, and it's one of those things, right, where it's sometimes you need lucky wins to win a season like that because it is a long season. But then there are matches like that you watch and you think that's not a lucky win. Maybe that's an indication of what they really are. And to me right now, watching them versus watching City, I actually see a pretty big difference. Like
Yeah.
I don't think it's almost close right now. And maybe that'll change after the holiday break. Maybe in the new year, Arsenal get back to being more clinical. But right now, City look like the clinical team.
Well, I just don't know how. Again, maybe they go out. I mean, they've spent so much to put this side together in the first place. Maybe this in the January window, they're able to bring in someone who addresses some of that fact. But, like, they don't have a natural goal scorer. Yorkie has not the solution to the problem.
No.
And yeah, I feel like they're predictable. I don't think they would scare big teams. I don't think if you're a really good side, you'd worry about playing Arsenal because I think you feel like the concern would be they are great at set pieces, and that's the scary thing is like they are going to get corners at some point, and if they have 10 corners, they're probably scoring from one of them. So that's the fear is that like they don't actually have to be that in matches with the way that they're set up and how efficient they are from set pieces. I was in a pub last night and I asked with a couple Arsenal supporters and I asked them, "Do you think you have a single world class player?" And the answers were yes. I'm not so sure. And, but the list was long. Oh, Saliba's world class. Gabriel's world class. Declan Rice is world class. Saka's world
I'll
class.
say Rice and Saka, no?
So the argument against Saka would be, are we certain he's going to be starting for England? He probably is because he's kind of been the player on that side. And
Slightly unfair, though, because England are flush at that position.
but then you're not world class. Like, because to me, world class means are you in the 2 or 3 best player, undoubtedly in the 2 or 3 best players in your position in the world. And so if part of it is, I'm not even sure if you're going to start in a World Cup, then immediately that should kind of eliminate you from the world class consideration. Because yes, England do have a lot of wingers, but then there are still a lot of wingers who play for other countries as well, So like this is a tough thing. And I think Saka will because he kind of has the right hand side of the England team a little bit down on, on lock but I'm not it wouldn't stun me if if we get to the World Cup and some of these debates vacillate, right? Like Foden was on the outs and then now Phil Foden's found some of the best form of his career, and it's unimaginable to think that Phil Foden won't be starting for England this summer, even though he hasn't been starting for England up until now. And maybe Tuchel will remain loyal to the players that he's been using and that suit his system more. But like 3 months ago, we would have said there's no way Phil Foden's world class. He's certainly in world class form. Has he put himself back into the world class discussion? Possibly. I don't know. That Arsenal team, there's a lot of maybes. One person was outrageous enough to say David Raya was world class, which was just
Oh
that
my
one.
God.
I couldn't take anything he said seriously from that moment on. And he had the audacity then. He didn't know that I was a Blackburn Rovers supporter. He then said, "Well, you don't watch him week in, week out, so you don't know." I said, "I watched him week in, week out for fucking years. I watched him. He's a good shot stopper, but if he's Diego Pavia's height, and ultimately at some point
Pavia's still taking shots on the height.
at some point as a goalkeeper, that height is an issue. But yeah, and this is the thing is I'm not knocking because as this conversation went on, one of the things I said is I think they have the best center back pairing in world football. Like Gabriel and Saliba are an excellent center back pairing, but that doesn't mean that individually I think that either one of them is world class. But I struggle to think of another European side that has a center back pairing that I would rather have than those two. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't replace them individually with other people. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. Because if I think of City, just to put this in context, I think City are much better than Arsenal. I think City only have like Holland is undoubtedly world class. Again, in current
Same
form,
argument.
yes, but not
It's the Saka argument a little bit.
Yeah, like I'm not sure. I think it would be too you'd be too sort of in the disease of now to be putting Foden world class because it's too responsive to like what's been going on.
I think if you said but I think if you even I agree. Like if you did this last month or two, but I think if you pulled it out the last 3 years,
I don't know. I think that's I think that would be generous to Foden. I think Holland undoubtedly.
yeah.
Other than Holland, I'm trying to think. It's also because you've had, like injuries to key players. So how am I assessing, where they stand from an injury perspective? Because, like Rodri is world class, but he's had lots of injuries over the last 12 months. So, but I think you have to put him in the world class category. But yeah, there's not. there's not a lot of, that's the thing. I think the Arsenal, when I asked the Arsenal supporters this, they took it as me being like, oh, your team's shit. It's like, well, no, because I mean, obviously you can't have 7 world-class players in a side. That would, to me, the term world-class is becoming meaningless because you're just saying that like all good players are world-class. But
Do you throw Pep in there?
Guardiola?
Yeah, as a manager. Is he a world-class
Oh,
manager?
yeah, he's a world-class manager. Yes. And
Is
you can't,
Arteta?
no. He
I
hasn't
think
won
that's
anything.
like I know. Okay. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying I think that's another piece of the argument, like as well.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But and I think realistically, right? Because if you did that thing that people love to do, they're like, let's pick the combined 11 of City and Arsenal. I think you end up with more City players. If you take if someone did it objectively and honestly, like I
Yeah.
think it's hard to say that you would take Raya over Donnarumma, for example. I think that would be a tough one. I'm sure people will say that they would, but realistically, that's a no. And there's key positions like, yes, center backs, possibly both of them get in, and Declan Rice probably makes it, Saka makes it. And then I think you're done. I think that's it. But yeah. But no, it feels like we're headed towards the inevitable. And I mean, I can upset some listeners and say Chelsea actually look all right, but how did you feel talking about worlds collided? You had Caleb Williams doing the cold Palmer celebration.
Loved it. Yeah, I know. I sent it in our group chat we have with our Chelsea supporter. I love it. I might make a T-shirt now. A Caleb Williams, Cole Palmer crossover T-shirt. It'll be our big chill merch.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to ask for Cole Palmer's thoughts on this because I'm sure he has absolutely no
No
idea who
idea.
Caleb Williams is.
No idea.
Probably
And
no idea.
it's not as if the Bears traveled to London either, right? They were not a London team this year, so it's not as if they've
No,
met.
no. And
Yeah.
also to his credit, I think Cole Palmer just wouldn't care. Like, I
Oh,
think he'd
does
be
he play Fortnite?
yeah. He obviously plays FIFA. Like, that's the only thing. If you're Cole Palmer, like, you're getting an iconic FIFA celebration. That's what's going in your favor. So it's just like, yeah, Caleb
Yeah.
Williams obviously plays FIFA, and that's the thing that's, influencing his celebrations.
Anything else? So I guess we'll meet again. We'll meet again. We'll we'll meet again.
Don't
We'll
know
have
where, don't know when.
another discussion in our next podcast about the college football playoffs, which start this weekend, and then we can lump that in together, maybe with some of our picks for the NFL. But we're getting into although it's sad that it's almost over, we're getting into like the really good weeks of American football when you have college football playoffs and the NFL season winding down, also getting into playoffs. You get like a good 6 weeks left of good
Well,
quality games.
especially because I love when it gets to this stage of the NFL and then you do start getting Saturday games and,
Yeah.
games at different
Friday,
times of day.
Christmas games,
Yeah, and so
Boxing Day games.
you're getting games almost every day of the week, and that's nice. But yeah, then we'll suddenly get to February and it will all be over, and you know, obviously our content on the podcast has to shift focus slightly. But yeah, it's no, but yeah, we can do next episode. We can do those predictions. Obviously, this is not the most interesting week of the college football playoffs without missing the 4 teams that are getting the bye.
Yeah, you have not many quality matchups. I guess you would say you have Miami and Texas A&M is a good one, and Alabama, Oklahoma. Those are the 2 good
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, and the other 2s are
Although
duds.
JMU is crushing it on their social media. I don't know if you've seen that.
I saw, yeah.
They are just relentless with the posts on ripping onto Oregon. It's really good. I appreciate that.
I think some of what they've done is funny. The problem with this is that ultimately they are still going to lose by 25 points,
Yeah.
and everything's tongue in cheek. They don't legitimately think they're going to win, but it is a tough look when you then get blown out like you need your team to win if you're going to do all this talking.
No, but I think the only reason they're doing it is to make it slightly fun to even watch.
Maybe. But when it's over in the first quarter, I don't know if the social media content will change people's perceptions too much. But yeah. Any other? Obviously, you mentioned the third test in the cricket is in the Ashes is underway. England must win from an England perspective, or I suppose if they want to win the Ashes, or at least must not lose if they want to have any chance of saving any dignity.
Yeah, I did not watch the second test, and I haven't started the third one at all watching it, but
Is it
maybe
like a
today I'll
TV
jump in.
series?
No, I mean, like, I haven't, like,
I haven't watched the
started
second
in the
test
sense
yet.
that
Don't spoil it for me. I'm going to watch that over the weekend.
No, you don't have to spoil it for me. I think I know what's gonna happen.
I did
But
watch.
go ahead.
Speaking of TV series, I did watch the first episode of Pluribus.
Oh, yeah. What? Only the first one?
Only the first one, yeah.
Oh, I should have told you. You have to kinda watch the first 2 because that is not at all what the show is. It's like the rest of that's almost like a prequel, and then the rest of the show is completely different than the first episode.
It wasn't bad. It
Because they
wasn't bad.
released them together because of that. Because Vince Gilligan was afraid when people saw the first episode, they'd be like, "Oh, this isn't something I'm really interested in." But it's almost not at all what the show's about.
I love,
It it
I love,
it is,
I
but it
love that.
isn't.
I love that with any show. I must say, there's plenty of shows I love where you do have to tell someone to watch the first few episodes. But I do love the idea of like, I know you're not going to enjoy it for a while, but if you do watch several episodes, you'll eventually be okay with it. You'll force yourself
Well,
to like it.
because I think the first episode, like, some people might think it's like way too sci-fi
Sci-fi.
or even like scary, like a little, not horror, but like little like tense kind of thing, and it's not really at all what it is.
It's very heavy on the sci-fi. I immediately
It
understood the reason why you liked it, just because the scene with people looking after rats or mice or whatever they were. I'm just like, oh, okay,
but
now I get why Frank has encouraged me to watch this. So there's a scene of someone with
that's
a
it.
mouth. Wow, that must have disappointed you.
It did a lot.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah, no, it's basically like that episode just set the scene for the rest of the show. So, but yeah, that show's almost done. I think just like 2 episodes left. It's a short season.
well, I'll catch up with it, I suppose. I've not got. It's either that or episodes of House. So
Ooh, nice. Well,
nearly finished
Fallout's coming
House.
back soon, and
Yeah.
The Pick comes back kind of soon. I think in January.
Yeah, and then you've got that new Game of Thrones show, which is they released
Oh,
that
that looks
first
pretty
trailer.
good.
Doesn't look bad. I'm not a Game of Thrones
Yeah,
person, but it looks fine. It feels
yeah,
less Game of Thronesy, so it's at least kind of removing you slightly from being too. As a non Game of Thrones person, it feels more approachable because it at least doesn't feel as sort of like immersed into the sum of the. Because I know this is important because of who he is as a character in terms of he gets referenced in Game of Thrones as one of the great
barely,
one of the greatest knights or whatever. But I
kind
can at
of.
least watch it without it being like this
Yeah,
guy did this and that guy does that and then he sleeps with
yeah.
her and they have a child.
Yeah, you don't need to know who anyone is really. Like, it's one of those things, I guess, like, people will enjoy it when they do know who the characters are, but you don't have to know who the characters are. Yeah, no, it actually looks really good. And y yeah, like you say, it's not like Game of Thrones in that sense, but I think what it does look good is it does kind of look like Game of Thrones in the sense that it's a lot more it's a lot less of, like, House of Dragon to me feels very much kind of what you're saying, where it's like, these are all these important characters we've discussed so many times. So now you have to see what their history and their exact story was. Whereas like Game of Thrones for a while was really good because it was just a lot of like characters interacting with other characters and building relationships. And it wasn't all like, then this needs to happen and that needs to happen and this needs to like, and that's what this show kind of looks nice. It looks like it just looks like a fun show of like people like talking to each other and having like meaningful conversations and witty talk and banter. So I think it will be a lot better. I think it'll be better than House of Dragon, at least
Yeah.
from an enjoyment standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll certainly give it a go.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah. So we had our department holiday end of semester party yesterday, where we kind of rented out a ballroom on campus, and not ballroom in the sense that everyone got fancy, but just like a big open space, and had food and drinks and things like that. And one of the things that they do every year, so this is my first time attending, obviously being new to Minnesota, they do trivia. And because myself, who enjoys hockey and plays hockey, and the other new person who was hired had previously played hockey and still wants to play, it was a Minnesota hockey themed trivia in honor of the two new hires. I'll throw out some of the questions, Eddie. Let's see if you can get them. I was slightly nervous because I was like, shit, I don't know anything about Minnesota hockey, but it is not very Minnesota-y hockey.
But it's very hockey.
So it was all hockey questions.
Ah.
Yes. So let's see. The first one was I can't read his handwriting. Oh, who coached the 1980s U.S. Olympic hockey team, who was also from Minnesota, or a coach of Minnesota?
Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you his name. Seen the movie.
Herb Brooks.
Yeah. I know The Ugly Jacket, but couldn't tell you his name. Can we also address the fact, before we go on to your next question, that Donald Trump, we've passed, the U.S. has passed a bill giving those guys a gold medal? Did you not see this in the news? The U.S. team that beat the USSR and then lost in the final, because that's the kind of lost story in this, right? Is that they didn't actually win the gold medal match. They lost to Sweden, right? And so like everyone thinks of the Miracle on Ice, as kind of being the
No, they won. They win.
No,
they
didn't.
win. They 100% win. They beat Finland.
No,
they win
didn't.
A gold medal.
No,
yes,
they didn't.
Did. Yes, they do. 100%, Eddie. They beat Finland 4-2. Did Donald Trump tell you they lost? Because that sounds real.
I'm confused. I don't know which team I'm thinking of then that won a big game, but then went on to lose the gold medal game.
Well, now you've spoiled one of the questions. Because one of the questions was, who do they famously beat in the gold medal match?
Well, did they famously beat them?
Well, because that's the whole trick, right? So they beat Finland in the finals because they played the USSR or Soviets in the semifinals. One of the other questions was, what was the phrase coined from that 1980s? What was that game called? Yeah, the Miracle on Ice. Beating Finland was one. Another one was, what's the name of the movie that takes place in Minnesota that coined the phrase cake eaters?
Mighty Ducks?
Yeah, the Mighty Ducks. Yeah. That's what they call like the rich kids. They call them cake eaters. And it became like an actual phrase that people used. And then the other one you would know is the person who was running it was like, what 1994 movie that was based in Minnesota was I an extra on?
No idea.
That was D2, the Mighty Ducks.
Was this a fun quiz to take part in?
Yeah. Everyone was kind of like participating and stuff. And they had prizes and things for everything. I did not answer any of the questions. I knew them all, but I like let the students and stuff answer.
Who won?
So it was like each time someone won.
So if you answered a question correctly, you won a prize?
Yeah. There was like the first person to raise their hand. Because there was one where she was like, that 1980 U.S. Olympic team. And then I instantly told my buddy, I was like, the answer is going to be Herb Brooks. And he was like, raise your hand. I was like, no, I don't want to be like the dick who like cuts the person off three words into a question. I was like, but I know it's going to be Herb Brooks because like the whole Minnesota thing. And then it ended up being like, who was the head coach? Well, but yeah, it was, and there was like 2 or 3 other questions, but those were very specific to University of Minnesota. So I doubt you'd know those.
Probably not. Hockey is a weak point for me anyway when it comes to sports knowledge. I did mention last night, we were talking briefly about hockey, and I did mention my Land Rollers.
Not again. So can't we just get rid of these things?
Was encouraged to break the Land Rollers out at some point. Also mentioned the Topolino. People were very enthusiastic about the Topolino. Said it was
until they
probably
got in it, and then it got stuck up a hill.
said it was probably going to turn into a classic. That was the
Yeah, what, like, like the Shelby Mustang, like the classic cars.
yeah.
Now, do you have to have like a car? I can't believe we still ask questions about this. This is crazy. Do you need like a car registration?
Yeah, it's got a license plate.
But it does. But you said it doesn't qualify as a car technically.
No, officially it's not a car, but it's got a license plate on it. It's registered.
Okay, but you have to pay the same amount as if you had like a real car, like the registration amount.
Yeah, I mean it's super cheap here, but yeah.
Okay.
But I can't
And is
remember
the
what it.
insurance cheaper because it's not like a real car? It can only go 20 miles an hour.
So the insurance is more than the lease. I'll say that.
That's great.
So the lease is 56 euros a month, and then the insurance is like 64 a month.
Yeah, I mean the lease is ridiculously cheap.
Yeah, but because part of the problem is because I'm leasing it, you have to have insurance. You're required then to have insurance for complete replacement if necessary. That's the part of your lease agreement. So I have to have the like maximum insurance possible. Um, and yeah, so yeah, it's not bad, but yeah,
Ugh.
I don't know. I've been
All right, anything else?
driving it around a fair amount. I'm getting less insecure whilst driving it. I I don't feel I'm less self-aware, at least.
Oh, that's good, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it.
All right. All right, well, I guess we'll call it a day.
Sounds good.
Talk to you later.
See ya.